Hey guys, it's Alexandra. Today I'm going to be talking to Kaelyn, who has a pretty crazy story about being catfished, and the person that catfished her ended up actually being on the show. So I'm sure you'll enjoy hearing her crazy experience and hopefully learning about how to stay safer online and not give dangerous people your information. So there's a lot of takeaways from this story, and I hope that you will enjoy, and feel free to subscribe below for more videos. Alright, thank you.
Put a finger down if your friend was getting married and you didn't know anyone at the wedding. So she says that you can sit with her friend Tyler after you get to know him. So you start to text Tyler every day for about 3 to 4 months, get pretty close, but then he doesn't show. That's okay. You guys are still friends. You're still going to talk to him. A few more months pass, and he ends up getting a girlfriend named Lexi, who he eventually knocks up. At this point, Lexi goes crazy, starts making his life a living hell, and he develops depression issues. After talking to Tyler about his depression, you say that he needs to leave Lexi for his general health and well-being, but he decides that the best course of action is to commit suicide. So for years, you harbor all this guilt, not knowing what to do or say to save your friend, and knowing that he's gone forever. About 10 years later, you find out that nobody in the story was ever real, and that you were catfished by your friend who got married.
Okay, holy shit. I did not expect it to blow up like that, and I see there's a lot of questions, but this was a texting conversation that went on for a year, so there's a lot of information that I can't really do a full story time, but I will give you this for now. Put a finger down if the person that catfished you was recently on the Catfish show because she was being catfished. Come to find out that she's been catfishing multiple people, and one of them had enough of it, so in turn catfished her. And Nevin, what's his name? Nev uncovered all of that on the show, and I would be more than willing to post the link so you guys can see this. No, this is not a made-up story. I wish it was, because lots of mental health issues now. Oh, there, I put my finger down. But no, she has since apologized to me. Doesn't really mean much. But yeah, that's all I have right now. See you guys. A lot of people said, well, how didn't you see it or whatever? But when this happened, it was such a long time ago that catfish wasn't really a big thing. So I didn't really look at it from that angle. But yeah, I'll just start from the beginning because I know there was a lot of questions that I obviously couldn't answer. So we'll get there eventually. But basically how it all started, how I met Kristen to begin with. She's the one that ended up catfishing me. When I was on Facebook one day, I noticed that somebody had posted a status asking if anyone knew this random number. So I was just being a creep and basically started texting the number to see if I could figure out who it was for her. I didn't really get anywhere, but then we just started talking about other things BSing, and I was like, okay, this person's actually kind of cool. I know this is the weirdest way ever to meet a friend, and I understand that, but once again, I was a weird child and I just wanted to get along with everybody. So that is how I met Kristen. It ended up being Kristen's number. I never ended up telling the people on Facebook that it was her. I just kind of kept her as a friend and we started texting. At that point, she started talking to me about Lexi first. And she stated how this girl was always harassing her. She said that she met her through her older brother, who was in a car accident and passed away, and that they had dated at one point in time. But she never approved of Kristen, and she was always very mean, and it just kind of stayed that way for years to come. So I was trying to intervene in the situation and make things better, because I thought, well, maybe it's just because somebody she loved passed away. I'm sure that if you could reach a mutual understanding and talk to each other, you guys could be each other's comfort in this time rather than a bully, you know what I mean? So I started talking to Lexi then at that point. And when we got on decent terms, I said we should all just sit down and talk sometime so we can work through this, because this is a lot of bullying and drama and harassment for little to no reason. And once again, I don't know why I intervened in any of this. But this is what I was talking to you about earlier on Instagram. Looking back, I was like, why did I do that? But that is what I did. So we ended up meeting at my house was the plan. And Kristen came over, and that was the first time I met her. So we just kind of were waiting for Lexi to show up, which obviously she never did because she wasn't a real person. After she was there for a couple hours and we just kind of hung out and BS'd, Kristen went to leave and noticed that there was scratching on her car, and a note that said FUB. I don't know if I can swear on your channel, so we'll leave it at that. And she stated that there was like a couple little girls that said a white Jeep hit her car and then just ran off. So from that moment on, I was like, okay, yeah, this girl's crazy. Like, she literally came here just to hit her car and then run away. You know what I mean? And I just never tried to be her friend again. Not that I was really her friend, but I never tried to like be civil with her from that point on. So then Kristen and I obviously kept our friendship. We started hanging out more and more. And she was getting married pretty recently. Like, it was, I think when I met her, it was only like like I said in the video, I guess 3 or 4 months before her wedding. So I told her my biggest concern was like, I don't really know any of your other friends. Like, we've only ever hung out together. And I mean, I've met your family a couple times, but obviously they're going to be at a different table. So I was concerned about who I was going to sit with. And she stated that she had a guy that was saying the same thing to her, and I was single. So she was like, maybe you guys can like hook up. Maybe it'll be like, you know, I can set something up here. And I was like, yeah, sure. Like, give me his number. Like, maybe we can talk. And he did. Like, he had all the social media. He had Facebook. He had Twitter, like everything. And he only had like a couple pictures. But once again, I never really thought of that as being any type of red flag. I was just, oh, okay, cool. You know, Kristen told me about him, so it's fine. And then we started texting. I know a lot of people ask me too if we like were ever like intimate, which I don't think that I ever did. I repressed a lot of those memories, so it's hard for me to remember exactly what we talked about. I know we flirted, but I don't think we ever like sexted per se. So I don't think that it was anything like too crazy, but like definitely some flirting. Like, I was interested in like meeting and hanging out, you know. And then when the wedding came, obviously he wasn't there. So I ended up just sitting by myself and making friends with her other friends and enjoyed my night. It was not a big deal. So I asked Tyler why he never showed up. He said that it was because he still had a really big crush on Kristen. They've been childhood friends and he always had feelings, and he just couldn't watch her marry somebody else. And I said, okay, like, I get that, you know, it would be hard if, you know, you felt that way about her. I understand. So I let it go, and we just kind of kept talking from there. Pause me if I'm going too much, or you have any other questions. Okay. So then after that, you know, we just kind of went on about talking, nothing really crazy happening. It was basically just friendships and obviously disliking Lexi. Kristen told me like what she drove. So every once in a while when we were just driving around town, she'd be like, oh, that's her vehicle. That's her vehicle. So that was another like installing it in my mind that like these were real people, like these are real situations. I know there was one time where we saw her car parked, or Jeep. It was a white Jeep with a Browning sticker, and we saw it parked. And so she like left her a little Debbie snack and said she was a fat bitch or something like that. Like, just little harassment things like this, though, like giving it back to her, which I wasn't really a part of that, but like I was in the vehicle when it happened. I did later find out who that girl was though, and I did apologize for everything, and I told her what happened. So we're okay now, but at the time, not so much. So then Tyler ended up hooking up with this Lexi girl, and they started a relationship. After he started talking to her, I was pretty much out of his life. He didn't want to talk to me anymore, and I assumed it was just because of the drama that we had, so I just let it be because we weren't super good friends, but I mean, we did talk pretty frequently, so it sucked a little bit, but it was whatever. And then he started talking to me again when she got pregnant, because he said that she was just crazy, like was telling him that he was stuck now and that she was going to make his life hell for the rest of his life and he was never going to get out of it and stuff like that. And just super depressed. He said he had to get away some way. And so I said, well, just leave her. Like, are you sure she's even pregnant? Like, you know, stuff like that. And he said that he just wanted to kill himself and he just wanted it to end. And I literally stayed up until I remember it was like 4 a.m. I stayed on the phone while like texting him, just like trying to get him to change his mind over and over and over. And he eventually just said, I'm sorry, Kay, I can't. And then I never heard from him again. And then Kristen told me the next day that like she got a hold of his parents and that he blew his brains out and that they were going to cremate him because of the damage, obviously. So then there was the funeral. Sorry, this is like weird talking about. I've like harbored it for so long. Okay, so then she told me about the funeral. I really looked anything up because I was just getting all my information from her. And I figured, you know, since they were friends for so long, that it wouldn't matter. Um, and I did. I got dressed and everything, ready to go. And I went to meet Kristen. And then she like had a breakdown. Like she literally started crying and everything, just saying that like she couldn't do it. She didn't want to see him like that. And like begged me if we could just get lunch instead because she just didn't want to go. And which also caught me off guard too. That was another red flag right there because she's like, I can't see him like that. But she told me he was cremated. You know what I mean? So there are always like these little hints throughout it, but I just was very naive. So I did, though. I just went and got lunch with her and we just kind of put it away for then. Um, and Lexi still continued to harass us, like even after that point. I know some people were saying, well, maybe she just wanted you to go to her wedding. But like, if that's all it was, it would have ended after the wedding. You know what I mean? But this went on like, I mean, the Tyler thing was only a few months, but like in general, with all of the other people she catfished me with was about a year's time. So I feel like that was confusing too. It's just so hard to like explain everything in those TikTok videos because they're so short. So I did the best that I could, but you know. After he did pass away though, when we were talking as friends, he stated that he had a vehicle he was getting rid of, and I was like really desperate for a vehicle at that time, so I was going to buy it off of him. When he passed away, I told Kristen, I was like, well, that stinks because I was really looking forward to having that vehicle, you know? So she's like, oh, well, I can give you his sister's number. Like, I'm sure she would still sell it to you if she doesn't need it for anything. And I said, okay, cool. So I did. I reached out to her, and that was the third person that she catfished me with, which was Emily. We had arranged multiple times to meet up. My dad even stated the other day, he's like, oh yeah, I remember taking you there the one day to try and meet this girl. We wait and wait and wait, and nobody would ever show up. She told me that she worked at the Walmart in Cranberry. So I even went to her work directly the one day to like meet her and be like, do you have the vehicle with you? Like, can we just do it right now? Or I can meet you at your house after work and we'll just do it right now. I ran into one of the schedulers there and she was like, we don't have an Emily Baxter here at all. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I left and asked Kristen about it. And Kristen was like, oh, well, that scheduler is new. She just probably doesn't know everyone yet. You know, just like excuses for everything. And I bought it. I was like, okay, whatever. Eventually just gave up. I was like, I'm done trying to get this vehicle. Like, she's never going to give it to me. And I'm tired of it. So I stopped. At one point, Kristen and her husband now moved to Florida because they just had better job opportunities than that down there. So when she went away, everything else kind of like mellowed out. I mean, we would stop, like we'd still talk here and there, but it wasn't like we weren't really hanging out, obviously. When she'd come home, I'd see her, but like that was more what ruined our friendship was just her leaving. But I still like, I mean, everything just kind of died at that point. Like I didn't get any more text messages about anything when she moved. So then, I mean, I still was holding all that guilt from Tyler though, because I thought that like I should have been able to say something more or like just find him, because I was driving around like trying to figure out where he could be and like I could just like meet up with him and like stop him. But like I just held that with me for such a long time. And I feel like that was one of the main things that pushed me into nursing too, because I just wanted to help people. I wanted to like learn how I could be a better person and like reach out to those that needed me or have a better idea of what I could say to help people, you know? And then that's when during a semester, we were talking about suicide and everyone started talking about their situations. I started to open up about mine, and it was like a very emotional class. Like everybody was basically crying because they all had very sensitive subjects. You know, it's a very sensitive subject. And so then I started thinking about him again. This was quite a few years later. I think it was 5 or 6 years later. So quite some time had passed. And then that's when I reached out to Kristen again. I was like, can you send me his obituary? Because it was something I never saw. I had tried searching it on my own and nothing was showing up. And I know she gave me an excuse for that too, and I cannot remember what for the life of me, what it was. Um, it had to have been something believable because I let it go. So I just don't remember what it was though. But then, yeah, she said that she would me and sent it to me. I went here for a couple of days and reached out again. And she would just kind of come up with an excuse saying she didn't really have that great a service. She'd get back to me later. And then she'd be like offline for a few more days, not even active. And this just kept happening for like days and days and days. So then I got like really suspicious. And I was like, then all those red flags were kind of triggering back. And I was like, none of this really makes sense. Like, I really should have looked into this more. And then the Catfish show, was going around more. So it was more of a plausible explanation for things. So I decided to reach out to Zach, which was her now ex-husband. And I asked him about it, if he even just knew those people, because if he would have actually been married to this girl, which they were, he would have known who her childhood best friend was and the girl that was consistently harassing her. So I asked, and he said, I've never heard of either of those names. This doesn't surprise me. She's done this so many times. Like, she just makes up lies and stories, and she really has a problem. And I was like, that's just so messed up. And then he did tell me that he saw her in the parking lot one time, or the driveway at their house, like on the phone, on 2 different phones, like texting from them. So I basically at that point had all the information I needed to know that I was in fact catfished, but I still just wanted her to say it. So I reached out back and said, he doesn't know who any of these people are, like, what the heck? And she blocked me. She stayed blocked, or I stayed blocked on her page for a very long time. I saw that she had unblocked me, but I didn't have anything to say to her. I was pretty much done at that point. And then just this last spring, so 2020, I was on my Instagram page and I saw that somebody that follows me, who I don't really know who he is, posted a picture of him and Kristen together. So I instantly, like, all my red flags went right back up, and I was like, oh my gosh, has she been watching my account this whole time? So I messaged him and I was like, how do you know me? Like, did she tell you to follow me? Or because I just wanted to get to the bottom of it, like, immediately. And he said, no, what are you talking about? Like, I have no idea why she would tell me to do that. And I just let it be because I didn't want her to have more drama in her life. It had been so many years. So I just said, oh, I just wasn't sure because I know who she is and I saw you guys know each other. And I just dropped it at that. Shortly after that, she had messaged me and asked why. I asked him that. And I stated, because, you caused me so much grief and problems in the past, and I don't really want you to have access to my life. And I just don't really see what other reason this person was following me for. I don't, like, unless maybe, I don't know how he could have come across my account otherwise, She said no, and that she didn't do that, and that she's grown up a lot and she's changed, and just a bunch of other, excuses for things. And then I did ask her, I said, can you just tell me the truth? Like, I just want to know if any of those people were ever really real, or if it was just a lie to you. And she stated that they were all fake. It was something that her cousin had started, and she just picked up the habit of doing and continued to do for such a long time. I accepted her apology. She stated that I wish she would have told me earlier, but I understand, and I wish her the best in life. And we pretty much cut ties there. That's the last time I talked to her. When I saw the Catfish episode air between her and Tiffany is when everything kind of fueled back up again, because it just made me angry. I thought, like, I was the only one she had done that to. And I thought that maybe she really did grow as a person. I mean, it was 9 years, 10 years later. So you would think that some character development would have happened in those years. But to see that she was doing it to Tiffany, and then to later find out that it was like 15 other people that she had catfished, was just a slap in the face and made me infuriated, to be honest. So that's why I did the TikTok. I never thought that it would get that kind of attention, but if my story can help anybody else, then I think that it was worth it. I do think it's just so important, especially as parents with our children and everything that's going on with that, to just keep a closer eye on our accounts and make sure that people aren't following us that we don't know, and that we're going through the research of, like, establishing that these people are real life people and not just accounts that can be so easy to make and manipulate people with. So that is basically it. Do you have any questions?
So I've noticed that sometimes on TikTok, when people come forward and tell crazy stories like this, a lot of the people that saw the video will comment and say like, hey, oh my gosh, the same thing happened to me, but XYZ happened too, and I'm so happy I found someone to connect to. So has anybody that saw your videos come forward to you with any similar catfishing stories?
I did see quite a few stories actually, and I know the one person even said, "You've inspired me to share my story. Like, I'm gonna make a TikTok," and I was like, "Do it! Like, that's your truth. Like, tell your story, and all it can do is help other people, you know, and get them more aware that maybe this is happening more than we're realizing it. Because other than the show, you don't hear about it." In a positive aspect, I would say allowing me to go down that nursing career. I'm not sure that I would have otherwise. I feel like one of my biggest factors was because I just wanted to help people and I wanted to learn how to better talk to people in those types of situations. And just in general, I mean, it's made me more protective and more, I don't know just how to say it, I guess. Just more knowing on things. I don't trust people as easily, which maybe is a bad thing, but to a certain extent, you know, you have to develop some type of trust before you're just telling them your whole life story. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And do you have any other kind of tips you would have for people who maybe fall into the same, not the same situation, but the same mindset of assuming that they can trust people and not realizing that it could be dangerous?
Right. So just tips for people in general, or for someone talking to someone they don't think is true, like accurate?
Just tips for anybody that's on social media or putting their information out there and may have the potential to get involved with somebody that's unsafe.
Right.
Or fake.
So I would always say that, especially with dating apps, because I've heard so many like horror stories with that in general, just always make sure somebody knows where you're going, who you're meeting. At least talk on before you look and decide to meet this person. Make sure that there's plenty of pictures. Make sure that you're searching them to make sure that they're not other people's pictures. I would just be so careful, because it's such an easy thing to do, and it's so easy to be manipulated by those type of people. But they're usually narcissistic. They usually have an answer for everything, and it's pretty easy to fall into the trap. But if you're safe and you're careful and you like stand your ground on certain things that you want, then I don't think that you'll be tricked as easily.
So after going through all this crazy stuff, I'm sure you wish you could have gone back and given yourself better advice on how to handle stuff on the internet. So I was wondering if you had any more kind of tips or advice for people who are online.
That I was so trusting to somebody that I never, you know, actually met. I'm not hard to get along with. I'm very, very social, and I do agree that, you know, it probably wasn't the smartest situation, but once again, that was just something that I learned from. I know there was like a lot of victim blaming, which I do understand their side of it. Like I understand those are all valid statements, but it's like you just have to understand that some people are very easy to manipulate. They have better hearts and they don't see the bad in people. So it's just easy to fall down the rabbit's hole some days.
So what is your hope that people walk away with when they see your videos? What do you hope they will learn and remember? Because you are putting a lot of stuff out there about yourself.
I am putting a lot out there. If anything, I say, and just look down, realize how much of the information is public. Maybe take a look at some of those friendships that they have developed that they know they never to. Maybe put some of those red flags up and look at them, like actually acknowledge them, go into the further investigative stuff to make sure that who they're talking to, who they're sharing their life are real people and not somebody that they never would have told those things to otherwise. That's really all I want, is just a safer population in general.